Okay, so picture this. You're lying in bed on a random Tuesday night, phone in hand, and you pull up your brokerage app. Not because anything happened, not because the market did anything crazy, just out of habit. The way some people check the weather for a city they don't even live in anymore. And there it is, $550,412. You blink, you refresh it, honestly, just to make sure it's not a glitch. And then, nothing happens. No confetti. No trumpet sound. You just kind of sit there in the dark, staring at a number that represents, what, a decade of discipline? Maybe more? And the weirdest part is, you don't feel like you thought you would. If that hits a little close to home, good, because that's exactly where I want to start today. My name is Rick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to glide right through these milestones, while other people, smart, hardworking, disciplined people, hit a number like $550,000 and suddenly feel more lost than they did when they had nothing at all. Which honestly is a strange thing to say out loud, but stick with me, because it's true more often than you'd think. Here's the thing, nobody really tells you about crossing this specific threshold. $550,000 isn't just a bigger number than $500,000, it's actually a psychological hinge point. A spot where your portfolio starts behaving differently, where the math starts doing more of the heavy lifting than you do, and where a bunch of very real, very human emotional traps start opening up right under your feet. Some people walk through this stage and come out the other side with a completely different relationship to money. Others get stuck circling the same number for years, not because their strategy is broken, but because nobody warned them what this particular stretch of the journey actually feels like. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about what actually happens, mathematically, emotionally, behaviorally, after you cross $550,000, because I promise you, understanding this stage changes how you handle it. Let's get into it. So here's where we start. And it's going to sound like a good thing, because it is. But it also messes with people's heads more than they expect. Somewhere around this stage, depending on your rate of return, your portfolio starts generating more money in a good year than you're personally contributing. Let's do some quick, rough napkin math. At $550,000, a 9% average market return is roughly $49,500 in a single year. Now think about that against what you're actually contributing. Maybe $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year if you're being aggressive. The market in a good year is out-earning you, just sitting there, doing more work than you are. I remember talking to a guy, I'll call him Dave because that's not his name and he'd probably rather I not use the real one, who told me this exact thing happened to him, and instead of feeling excited, he felt almost betrayed by his own portfolio. His words, not mine. He said, "I've spent 10 years grinding, saving, cutting back on stuff I wanted, and now the money's making more money than I do just sitting there? What was the point of all that discipline?" And look, I get it. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, being upset that your money is working too well. But emotionally, it's disorienting. You built an identity around being the one doing the work, and now the work is, kind of doing itself. Here's why this matters, though, and here's the mental shift you need to make. This is the point where your job changes. You're no longer the primary engine of your own wealth. You're becoming more like a caretaker. Your contributions still matter. Don't get me wrong, we'll come back to that. But your main responsibility is shifting from generate money to don't sabotage the machine that's already generating it. That's a completely different skill set. It's less about hustle and more about restraint. The actionable piece here is simple, but people skip it constantly. Automate everything you can and then, genuinely, try to forget your login for a little while. I'm only half joking. The people who thrive in this stage aren't the ones checking their portfolio every day. They're the ones who set up their contributions, their allocations, their rebalancing schedule, and then go live their actual lives. Check quarterly, maybe monthly if you really can't help it, but daily is where the anxiety lives. This one's less about numbers and more about identity. And honestly, I think it's the bigger issue for most people. For years, maybe your whole adult life, your financial goal was simple. Save more, invest consistently, hit the next milestone. It's a clean, almost video game-like structure. Level up, level up, level up. But somewhere around $550,000, a weird thing happens. The goal starts feeling foggy. You're not broke anymore, obviously. You're not struggling, but you're also not there, wherever there is. And that in-between space, it's uncomfortable in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't lived it. Think about it like climbing a mountain where the peak is hidden in clouds. When you're at the bottom, you at least know which direction is up. But somewhere in the middle, in that thick fog, you lose sight of both where you started and where you're going. That's this stage. You're too far along to relate to your broke 20s self, but you're not close enough to retirement to feel that finish line relief either. You're just climbing in the fog. And it's genuinely disorienting for people who've spent years relying on clear, motivating goals. I've talked to people at this stage who actually start sabotaging themselves a little. Not on purpose, but subconsciously. They loosen their spending, not because they suddenly can't afford discipline, but because the discipline stopped feeling like it was leading anywhere specific. It's like running a marathon with no mile markers. Eventually you slow down, even if you technically could keep the pace. So why does this matter? Because if you don't name this feeling, it'll quietly erode your progress. You'll drift, not dramatically. Nobody blows up $550,000 overnight, but slowly, in ways that add up over 2 or 3 years without you noticing. The fix, honestly, is almost embarrassingly simple. Give yourself a new mile marker. Don't just aim vaguely at retirement or financial independence. Get specific. Maybe it's, I want to hit $750,000 by this date. Maybe it's, I want my portfolio to cover 50% of my annual expenses in dividends and growth. Whatever it is, make it concrete enough that you can feel yourself moving toward it. The fog doesn't go away, but a mile marker gives you something to walk toward inside it. You'd think that as you build more wealth, comparison would matter less. You've got more security, more breathing room, more evidence that your plan is working, so logically you should feel more confident, right? Less anxious about what everyone else is doing? Except that's not really how it plays out for most people. In fact, comparison often gets sharper here, not softer. Here's why. When you had $30,000 or $80,000, you weren't really in the same conversation as people with real money. It felt distant, almost theoretical. But at $550,000, you're suddenly close enough to see the next tier clearly. And I mean that both financially and socially. You start noticing the guy at work who mentions his portfolio is pushing 7 figures. You start seeing more finance content, ironically, maybe content like this, that talks about millionaires like they're just a normal, everyday category of person. And instead of feeling proud of your own progress, there's this nagging little voice going, well, I'm still not there yet. It's a strange kind of psychological trap because it uses your progress against you. The closer you get to a goal, the more visible the remaining gap becomes. It's almost cruel, honestly. You'd think crossing $550,000 would feel like an accomplishment worth celebrating on its own, and it absolutely is. But the brain has this nasty habit of immediately recalibrating what enough means the second you hit a number. I want to be really direct here, because I think this is one of the most important reframes in this whole video. The goalpost will always move if you let it. There is no dollar amount where your brain naturally goes, okay, we're satisfied now, permanently. That's not how the reward system works, which means the skill you actually need isn't reach a number that finally feels like enough. It's learning to feel enough at the number you're currently at, while still continuing to build. Those two things aren't contradictory, even though they feel like it. Practically, this means building small, deliberate moments of acknowledgement into your journey. Don't wait for some far-off future number to let yourself feel proud. Actually sit with $550,000 for a second. Do the math on where you started. If you began at 0 and you're sitting here now, that's not a small thing. That's years of decisions compounding into real, tangible security. Let that land before your brain drags you toward the next comparison. Okay, so this next one is sneaky, and I mean genuinely sneaky, because it doesn't show up looking like a mistake. It shows up looking like a reward you've earned. At $550,000, you've usually got some real evidence that your system works. You've been disciplined for years, and your portfolio is proof of it. So there's this very natural, very human impulse that shows up and says, "Hey, you've earned a little breathing room here." And to be fair, you kind of have. This isn't me telling you to live like a monk forever. But this is exactly the stage where lifestyle creep gets dangerous because it disguises itself as balance instead of as a slip. Think about the difference between someone with $50,000 upgrading their car versus someone with $550,000 upgrading their car. The person at $50,000, that upgrade is a noticeable financial event. They feel it. It forces a conversation with themselves. But the person at $550,000, the upgrade barely dents the monthly cash flow. It doesn't feel reckless. It feels almost invisible. And that's exactly the problem. Invisible decisions are the ones that quietly compound into a completely different financial trajectory over 5 or 10 years. I think about it kind of like a slow leak in a tire. Nobody panics over a slow leak because day to day, you can't even tell it's happening. The tire still looks round. The car still drives fine. It's only months later when you're stranded on the side of the road that you go, "Huh? When did that happen?" Lifestyle creep at this wealth level works the exact same way. Small, invisible, gradual. And then one day you look up and your savings rate has quietly dropped from 25% to 12%. And you genuinely can't pinpoint when it happened. So here's the actionable piece. And I really want you to actually do this. Not just nod along. Pick one number and protect it fiercely. Your savings rate, not your dollar amount saved. Dollar amounts get distorted by raises, bonuses, lifestyle changes. But a percentage keeps you honest. If you're saving 25% of your income right now, that's your line in the sand. You can absolutely enjoy more as your income grows. New experiences, nicer things, more flexibility. Just make sure the percentage moves with intention, not by accident. Last major piece, and this one genuinely surprises people. When your portfolio was smaller, market drops didn't feel that dramatic in dollar terms. A 20% crash on $80,000 is a $16,000 hit. Painful, sure, but it doesn't rearrange your whole nervous system. A 20% crash on $550,000, though? That's a $110,000 swing. Same percentage, wildly different emotional weight. And here's the trap. Most people never actually recalibrate their risk tolerance as their dollar amounts grow. They're still telling themselves, "I'm aggressive, I can handle volatility," based on how they felt reacting to much smaller numbers years ago. I've seen this play out almost like a rite of passage. Someone sails through market dips for years, feeling like a disciplined, unshakable investor, right up until they're sitting at $550,000 and a real correction hits, and suddenly they're checking their portfolio 4 times a day, losing sleep, Googling things like, "Should I sell everything?" at 2 a.m. It's not that they became a worse investor, it's that the emotional stakes quietly scaled up while their strategy stayed frozen in place. This matters because panic selling during a downturn at this stage isn't just a small setback. It's the kind of decision that can undo years of compounding in a single afternoon of fear. The dollar amounts are just too large now for emotional mistakes to be cheap. So, genuinely, this is a good moment to do an honest gut check on your asset allocation. Not what you think your risk tolerance should be, but what it actually is, based on how you behaved during the last real downturn. If 2022 wrecked you emotionally, that's information. It might be time to shift a bit more toward bonds or more stable holdings, even if it slightly caps your upside. Because a portfolio you can actually stick with through chaos will always outperform a theoretically optimal portfolio you abandon in a panic. So let's bring this all together because I know that was a lot. Crossing $550,000 isn't really about the number itself. It's about the shift happening underneath it. Your money starts doing more of the work than you do, which is exciting but also strangely uncomfortable if nobody prepares you for it. Your old, clear goals start feeling foggy, and that fog can quietly slow you down if you don't give yourself something new to walk toward. Comparison doesn't fade the way you'd expect. If anything, it sharpens, because the finish line keeps redrawing itself in your head. Lifestyle creep starts wearing a disguise that looks a lot like a reward you've earned. And your risk tolerance, the one you built years ago on much smaller numbers, might not actually reflect who you are anymore. None of this means something's wrong with you, and it definitely doesn't mean something's wrong with your plan. Honestly, it means the opposite. It means you've built something real enough to start testing you in new ways. That's actually kind of the whole point. If there's one thing I'd want you to walk away with, it's this. Don't just chase the next number blindly. Pause here for a second. Actually acknowledge what $550,000 represents. The version of you years ago who started this, who kept going even when it was slow and unglamorous and honestly kind of boring most of the time. That person deserves a moment of recognition, not just an immediate pivot to the next target. And then, when you're ready, keep going. Not out of anxiety, not out of comparison, but because you understand, clearly now, what this stage actually asks of you. That's the difference between drifting through your wealth and actually building it, deliberately, all the way through. Now, like this video, if you found it valuable, comment your thoughts and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.